when you look at the numbers and you look at the body of work, like this isn't fluky. He is this good offensively, and he's been an amazing Team Karma guy too. Brought to you by Michelob Ultra, the official beer sponsor of the NBA. Win or lose, you're bound to enjoy the ride with a good beer in hand. And Michelob Ultra, it's good beer. It's crisp, it's light, it's refreshing. It's only 95 calories. So order yourself an Ultra 6-pack while we unpack 6 major things going on in basketball and in some of the other sports too. I want to lead with somebody you wouldn't expect. Kristaps Porzingis. He was like, oh, all right. Yeah, we did. You know, he bounced around. He's been in New York. He was in Dallas. He was in Washington. Boston's his fourth team. He's 28 years old. Yet the Celtics fans are talking about him like he's the cheat code of this team. He's the superpower of this team. And I think from afar, people haven't watched him and who even haven't watched him that much in the Celtics this year. It's like, oh, give me a break. He's going to get hurt, whatever. I don't think people understand how good Porzingis has been, not just this year, but really for the 2020s. His per 36 numbers, just for this decade, the 2020s, he's averaging 24 and 10, 47% shooting, 2 blocks a game. If you look at all the guys this decade who have averaged 24 and 9, right, per 36, it's Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Davis, Towns, and Porzingis. It's a pretty good group of players, right? So now we have all these advanced metrics you can look at too, right? We can study his post-ups. Now his post-ups, it's a little bit of a cheat code here because one of the things the Celtics love to do, if you guard Porzingis with a small, they're just like, no, you're not doing that. And they'll post him up at the foul line. They'll figure out some way to abuse the guy. And it's very hard to put either your worst guy or your smallest guy on Porzingis. With that said, he's shooting 69% on post-ups this year. They're averaging per 100 possessions 1.42 points per 100, which compared to Giannis, he's at 1.03 on post-ups. Jokic is 1.15. Embiid's 1.17. Şengün, the post-up master, he's 1.02. So Porzingis is killing those guys. As a pick-and-roll man, which anyone who watches the Celtics team, we don't understand why they don't run pick-and-rolls with White and Porzingis down the stretch because it's effectively unstoppable. And even in the Miami game on Sunday, they didn't do it. As a pick-and-roll guy, he's shooting 55%, 1.31 points per 100 possessions. Davis is 1.13. Embiid is 1.08. And Jokic, the best player in the league, the master at this, is 1.29. So they're doing slightly better with Porzingis and pick and rolls than Denver is doing with Jokic, who is the best player in the league. He's played 10 playoff games total. There's a very good chance he could get hurt at some point. Every Celtics fan has their finger crossed, but when you look at the numbers and you look at the body of work, like this isn't fluky. He is this good offensively, and he's been an amazing Team Karma guy too. So as we open the 6-pack here, I just want to point at Porzingis. He's not going to make the All-Star team. Probably had a case to be at least a bubble guy, but he's the super cheat code of this Celtics season. All right. Speaking of cheat codes, Giannis. He's my second thing I want to talk about. I don't know if you saw the Bucks play Denver last night, but the Bucks looked really good. The chemistry looked good. From an eye test standpoint, they're just defensively, they just seem to understand what the other person's doing. All the stuff the Bucks fans were complaining about, my friend Ben Thompson, where they were just like, our team's a mess. We're completely disheveled. We cannot figure out our defensive identity at all. What happened to us? Combined with the unhappiness that I saw in person in a couple games that people have been talking about, it feels like that cloud is lifted. And I was watching for this because obviously Doc Rivers took over, who he left the podcast and he left ESPN and he went back to his coaching lifestyle. And I was hurt. You know, I'm an only child. I don't like to be abandoned. But I also want him to do well as long as he's not playing the Celtics in a playoff series. And there were signs of life even during the 1 through 5 when they went 1-5 in the first 6. I know I did a joke about the Bucks panic tweet, but that's been a running joke for me on Twitter. I wanted to see last night because last night was a good test for them. What are they going to do against Denver? How are they going to handle the pick and roll with Jokic and Murray? How are they going to jump out on shooters? What's the pace of the game going to be like? And they answered every question. I mean, going into the weekend, they were plus 160 to win their division. Cleveland was the heavy favorite. Cleveland's coming off that big win streak where they, if you look closely, they beat Brooklyn twice, Washington 3 times, San Antonio twice. They went 2-1 against the Bucks right as the Bucks were imploding. And everybody's like, oh, Cleveland's the favorite in that division. I still think the Bucks should be the favorite. Right now, the Bucks are plus 115. And by the way, if you parlay that with Dallas's division odds, that gets over 4-1. Just going to throw that out. The bigger one to me is Giannis and his MVP odds. Giannis is plus 650. I'm not allowed to bet on this word. But if they end up being the 2 seed, if they can rally here, which I think is possible, and they have a better record than anyone in the West, because right now it looks like the top 2 teams in the East, maybe even the top 3, could have better records than anybody in the West. Well, Giannis, he's played 52 games already. He's averaging a 31, 11, and 6, 2.5 stocks a game, 61% field goal. He's plus 8.1 net rating when he's on off court. Got his coach fired. I mean, he at least had a hand in it, which if you're watching just the difference of how they looked last night versus how they looked the rest of the season, maybe he had some good ideas there. If he had ideas, I'm not accusing him, but come on. He also plays the hardest of anyone in the league. He really does. Now they give out the stupid clutch award, but they should really give out the who played the hardest this year award, because I think Giannis would win. As I joked about last week in the trade value, he's a borderline sociopath with these games. So you add all this together, they're 35 and 19. They're 4th in offense, 17 in defense, and that should probably get better for net rating. After the break, they play at Minnesota and at Philly. And those would be the 2 big questions, because I want to see how they defend Anthony Edwards. I still am not sure they can defend wings. I like the Beverly trade. You could feel it last night, him and Bobby Portis together. It's just the right kind of crazy coming off the bench, little irrational confidence, a little crazy, a little feisty. This team needed an identity change, and it feels like they're a little closer to where they were a couple years ago. So watch out for the Bucks would be my second big point. All right, third. So this is a quick one, but have you noticed how with sports ratings, everybody's sports ratings are up on TV? Like we just had the Super Bowl came out. It was the most watched Super Bowl ever. 123 million. It's like, man, that seems weird, because I thought people under 25 were on TikTok and on YouTube and on Snapchat and on all the streaming services. You have so many more TV choices. Why would the ratings go up? And then you see like ESPN, they do at the end of the year or the end of the month, be like highest ratings ever for Get Up and all these different shows. Same for Fox. All their shows are up. Everybody's ratings are basically up except for the NBA and whoever replaced the 12 p.m. Sports Center. If your ratings don't go up, it's probably a bad sign. But I couldn't figure out why are the ratings up. So I asked John Arand, who covers sports stuff. He used to be at Sports Business Journal. Now he's at Puck. I was like, what's going on here? This is the very short thumbnail version. I'm sure there's a better, longer, deeper dive version of this. He should write it. John, write this for Puck. They're measuring these at-home ratings, which has been this new trend this decade. And they've expanded them. And they did this during COVID, so it didn't have an effect right away. But at some point, they changed the ratings to reflect, if you're watching in a bar, if you're watching in an airport, if you're watching at somebody's house, they basically changed the mechanics of it. So John estimated the ratings are like 10 to 20% higher, right? So there's one thing. The second thing is the Super Bowl was on CBS and it was on Paramount Plus and it was on Nickelodeon. Monday Night Football was on ESPN 1 and 2. You get to add those together, and it was on ABC sometimes, and it was on ESPN Plus. So they get to add all these ratings together. Of course, the ratings are up for everything. Like if we had in the playoffs, it's like in the NBA, 28-footers are now worth 5 points, and everybody in the NBA, their points went up like 10% because of these 5-pointers. And then the Milwaukee Bucks did a press release. Our points per game are up 12%. It's the most points we've ever scored. It's like, yeah, because you're counting 5-pointers now. Whatever's going on with this at-home thing seems to be the 5-pointer of this whole whatever. But if I'm the NBA, I'm like, man, we have all these different ways to boost the ratings, and our ratings aren't even going that well. I would be very concerned. I would be trying to get that Media Reds deal done as fast as I possibly could. Been talking about this is the fourth thing. Been talking about the Super Bowl OT decision that Shanahan had. Sal and I were both in the camp when we did the podcast on Sunday night of, I can't believe they took the ball. They should have gone second. There's been a lot of stuff written about this since. I've been on some arguments on text. ESPN's Brian Burke, crunches those numbers, like here's this scenario, here's that scenario. He said it was basically 50.2 to 50.3% odds to get the ball first. So basically nothing. That's a coin flip. Shanahan was saying they wanted it because if you get the ball third, meaning if the two teams match scores, you get the ball third, now you have the advantage. That makes sense on paper. Here's the case for going second. And I didn't fully realize this in my head for a couple of days as I was arguing with people. So if you go second, you can get a stop or a turnover, right, on the other team's first drive and get the ball. Now you have a chance to win the game. That's one thing. You can match a field goal. You can match a TD. That's the second thing. You can score a touchdown and go for a 2-point to just try to win it, which the Chiefs, if you read anything or heard anything of them talking heading into that game, they had all these 2-point plays ready to go because just in case there was an overtime, because if they went second, which they wanted to, they're going to go for the win when they had the ball. But there's like a mental aspect to this too. And the best way I can describe it is this. You're playing blackjack. You could basically mirror what the dealer does, right? You could just do every single thing like the dealer does. You can just keep hitting until you get to 17. You can stop at 17. But for some reason, the blackjack wins more than the person playing. Well, why is that? Two reasons. One, the person playing is going first, so they have a chance to screw up or get too aggressive or whatever, and the dealer can basically win by doing nothing. And then second, there's a psychological advantage. When you're going first, you don't know what the dealer has, so you're just trying to, well, I got to be aggressive. He's showing a 9. And then you're kind of falling out of maybe the right way to play a hand. Going second in this is you're the blackjack dealer. No matter what happens, you're kind of psyching out the other team. And even like the Niners not going for it on 4th and 4 and settling for the field goal, you could argue like if they had to do that over again, would they have gone for it on 4th and 4 there? Knowing that Mahomes was waiting, knowing the inevitability of, oh my God, we just gave Patrick Mahomes the ball and he field goal ties, touchdown wins. What did we just do? I think going second makes you the blackjack dealer. That's my thought. Speaking of Mahomes, there's been a lot of Brady Mahomes stuff. I got to defend my guy Brady for a split second here. Brady went to 10 Super Bowls and he won 7. Brady won 19 of 22 division titles. Brady went 35-13 in the playoffs and had 13 first-round buys, which means if you're just saying playoff round advancements, he advanced 48 times. I really want to see somebody beat that in my lifetime. Brady beat Mahomes twice in the playoffs in 2018 and in the Super Bowl. And Mahomes is 15-3 in the playoffs. He's got 6 of 6 division titles, 4 first-round buys, so he's 19 advances. So he's 29 advances behind Brady. He's on a great pace. Kudos to Patrick Mahomes. But Tom Brady, the GOAT thing shouldn't be in this play. Mahomes is on Brady's corner, and that's it. Brady from 2014 to 2020, which is the same time frame right now as Mahomes, he won 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 1 MVP, and beat Mahomes twice. And this was in the last part of his career. So everybody, settle the fuck down. What I do think is in play is best decade to start a career. And this is something Justin Termini texted me about this yesterday. I've always had this theory with Larry Bird. His first 9 years, I think, is the greatest start to a career in the history of the NBA. His first 9 years, 3 titles, 5 finals, 3 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs. In the MVP voting, his first 9 years, including his rookie year, 4th, 2nd, 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 1st, 3rd, 2nd. There was literally never a point after his rookie year when he wasn't one of the 3 best players in the league. And his rookie year was the 4th best player in the league. He also should have won the 1981 MVP, which I covered in my book. Him and Dr. J were dead even last game of the season, which basically if we covered the NBA back then like we do now, we would have said whoever wins this wins the MVP. Well, Boston blew out Philly. So Doc, I think people love Doc and they just want to give him one. Bird was 25, 10, and 6 over that 9 years. And 50%, 38%, 88%. And it's just like, you can't do better than that for your first 9 years as a basketball player. Wayne Gretzky, I think we count the WHA year. We have to. But then he won 8 straight MVPs. Seems irrelevant. 4 cups, 6 finals. He won 9 of 10 MVPs his first 10 years in the NHL. 8 straight scoring titles, broke every record, so he's got to be in the mix. Tiger Woods, PGA Player of the Year 8 times from 97 to 07, plus he won in 09. He was the money winner 9 times from 97 to 09, and he won 14 majors from 97 to 2008. And then Montana, who I forgot didn't start for 2 years, so it's a little tougher for him. But from 81 to 89, 4 Super Bowls, 14-4 in the playoffs, and he won 1 MVP. And then last but not least, the GOAT, Bill Russell, who came into the league, won a title his first year, and won 11 to 13, won a bunch of MVPs, was the dominant player of an entire generation. Also coached the team for the last 2 titles. So I'm still going to say Bill Russell, best start to a career ever, because the start, middle, and end was the best. But Mahomes has it. What's happening with Mahomes, you throw away his rookie year because he didn't play. But now he's in this, it's 2 more years like this. He's at least in the conversation now for one of the best starts to a career in any team sport. And let's say he wins 2 more Super Bowls. He might be like the second or third person mentioned. So that was more interesting to me. I'm not ready to have the Brady discussion yet. He's certainly on pace, but let's see it happen for 50 more years. Let's see you have a 2014 to 2020 version of the third part of your career like Tom Brady did. Last but not least, this is a quickie, but Victor Wembanyama, I try not to watch the Spurs. They make me so mad. It makes me so mad they didn't get a point guard for him. Here's the thing. He's hitting every checkpoint we would have wanted from him, right? If you look at just the last, his 2024 stats, just January and February, he's averaging a 23 and 10, 3.3 blocks a game, 50% shooting. He's a good free throw shooter already, which I wasn't expecting. He's 83% from the line during that stretch. He can hit threes. That'll get better. The worst part of his game, the pull-up jumper stuff, he still hasn't really figured out how to punish people the way like somebody like Porzingis does on Boston when there's a smaller person. But, he's a baby. He's 20 years old. I think he's a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate. Michael Pina threw this out on Twitter yesterday. Kevin O'Connor agreed. I would also like to agree. I don't know if he should win, but I think he's now in the conversation. And then you think 22 and under guys, all time, who averaged 20 and 10 with 3 blocks a game. That list looks like 1974 Bob McAdoo, 93 Shaq, 93 and 94 Alonzo Mourning, and 86 Hakeem, and probably 1970 Kareem, but we didn't keep blocks back then. The point is he's hitting all the check marks. And you think back, LeBron as a rookie, I remember writing a rookie column about him for ESPN the magazine, like halfway in, I'm like, LeBron's delivering the goods, man. This is great. I love what I'm seeing. He's hitting the checkpoints. MJ as a rookie, he's a little bit older. He was 22, but he averaged 28 his game as a rookie. And we knew almost instantaneously this guy has it. I think people felt that way about Wilt, who was, I think, 23 when he came in the league. Shaq's first year, I felt that way. Tim Duncan, who had 4 years in college, same thing. But with Wembanyama, if you were like, all right, he's not going to have a point guard and his team's going to suck, are we still going to feel good about this heading into the All-Star break? I feel fantastic. And I might actually start watching the Spurs, even though they infuriate me with the team they put around him. But where does this go? You think like this is the floor. The floor for him are the last 6 weeks, 23 and 10, 3.3 blocks a game. So where does this go? Year 4, is it 30 and 15 with 5 blocks a game? It's almost like a house without a ceiling. That's Victor Wembanyama. So that's it. Those were today's 6 major things. Remember, get yourself a 6-pack of Michelob Ultra, a Superior Light Beer, an official beer sponsor of the NBA. Refreshing, crisp, only 95 calories. Plus, right now, Michelob Ultra is helping fans get closer to the game than ever with exclusive prizes and experiences like courtside seats to see your favorite team play in person. Learn more. Enter for your chance to win at michelobultra.com/courtside.